What unites us? There are things that are deeper than race, deeper than education, deeper than material wealth. I really wanted to show you this story that I just found, which was on Reuters last month, about Private Burton homes. It will make your heart melt. They're sharecroppers. They live in a time when the people are being lynched, when the Klan is on the rise. There is no welfare. There is no veterans benefits. There's no social safety net. Nothing. They had nothing. Tonight I want to share with you what I have learned about this unknown birth of modern civil rights. But before we go there, there's a recent discovery that goes to the heart of what's dividing us as a country right now. We have a man who can't write his name, who chooses to die for his nation. He makes a choice. He lives in the Jim Crow South, where lynching and the Klan is a big problem. He's a victim, a real victim, but he doesn't see himself as a victim. He makes a choice. He's a stakeholder. He believes in something larger than himself, and he makes the ultimate sacrifice. They were not victims, even though they were terribly victimized. They were the example of what Martin Luther King talks about when he says, free at last, thank God Almighty, we're free at last. They knew inner freedom that no one could take away, and it turns out that this poor unit of black sharecroppers from South Carolina was the most decorated unit of World War I amongst black soldiers and suffered the most casualties. This represents the only example in American history where you have two African-American heroes who die in the same battle, both nominated for the Medal of Honor. It's sacred ground for America, and no one knows it's there. Hopefully, this young man, who should have been the first African-American to win a Medal of Honor in the 20th century, will likely be reopened and hopefully a Medal of Honor awarded. But it didn't stop there. Almost 7 decades before Martin Luther King was born, African Americans aspired to live a dream of a country where people would see them not for the color of their skin, but for the content of their character. It's now April 1898. America declares war on Spain in Cuba in the Spanish-American War. Chicago's all-black regiment wants to be first on the field, but Governor John Tanner says, thanks, but no thanks. So he sends a white unit, and they are decimated by tropical disease. The African-American unit goes back to the governor and says, please send us. It's a Jackie Robinson moment about which no one knows. It was called the Experiment in Color. And Governor Tanner did something else that was historic. He promoted Major John R. Marshall to colonel. He would be the first African-American colonel in the U.S. military. Born a slave, the illegitimate grandson of the longest-sitting U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice, even through today. His grandfather gave the oath of office to Thomas Jefferson. So when you drive around Washington, D.C. and see John Marshall Bank signs, that was his grandfather. There were a lot of firsts. But the one that no one saw coming was the life-affirming dignity that touched each African-American soldier from being in a society that judged them not on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. Cuba was a multiracial society. The general leading the Cuban insurgency against Spain was General Maceo, a black general. They never forgot what it was like to be treated as human beings. This is what a citizen's journey is about, that the idea that ordinary people, I'm not a historian, can find things that can change our world and help us to understand what unites us and where our strength lies.